So hi, Katie here again. So today I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do a reaction video. My first ever reaction video. So this is a video by a transphobic group called Fair Play for Women, who are active over here in the UK, and they were particularly active during the consultation for the Gender Recognition Act reform, which kind of went on from about 2018 to 2020. And yeah, so basically they scaremonger about trans women in female spaces, and but to do that they couldn't actually produce a video that showed a real trans woman. They had to show a man in it. So anyway, let's have a look at the video.
Women! Birds! Ladies! Don't just look at them, be one! Alright, I'm Dick Travers, introducing a new law that could be just the thing for you. It's called Sex Self-ID.
Right, well you can see right from the start, this isn't a trans woman in any way, shape or form. This is a stereotype of a sexist, misogynistic, cishet male, and it's quite a classist stereotype. It's like a caricature of what Fair Play for Women think the average working class man is like. So yeah, so not only is this video sexist, it's classist, and it's also transphobic. But let's proceed.
Go online, fill out a form, say you're female, and apply for a new birth certificate saying you were born a girl.
No, it doesn't work like that. It wasn't going to work like that. What was going to happen was self-ID was about making a statutory declaration, and you would have to have evidence as well to show that you were serious about transitioning and you weren't just some misogynistic guy like this caricature here who decided, oh, I know, I'll apply to become legally female so that I can have access to women's spaces like toilets, changing rooms and showers so that I can perv on them. No, and anyway, you wouldn't need to go to all that trouble to do that, because all a man needs to enter, for instance, women's toilets is a high-vis jacket with security on the back. But do we ban high-vis jackets, or do we ban men from wearing them or obtaining them? No, we don't. And anyway, without further ado, I will proceed further.
No hormones, no lipstick, no going under the knife, no doctors checking you want to be female forever. You even get to keep your nuts.
That is pointless, him saying that, because what your genital status is has no bearing on your legal status of whether you're male or female in the UK. So for instance, you can apply for a gender recognition certificate. That's what the Gender Recognition Act enables you to do, and you can be accepted as legally female, for instance, by a panel that meets in secret, and they will sort of, and they won't, your whether you've had surgery or not, whether you've had bottom surgery is irrelevant. You know, what is relevant is the fact that you're serious about transitioning, and to make a statutory declaration that would have been the same. So it would have just meant that we wouldn't have to go to you know, sort of apply to a panel that meets in secret and takes ages to come up with a conclusion that, you know, of whether we're male or female, not based on what they think. So that would have empowered people to be able to self-declare our gender, as is the case already in other countries. Like I think the latest one to introduce self-ID for trans people who want to change their legal gender is New Zealand. So yeah, and society hasn't gone to hell in a handcart over there, and also as well the incidence of women being assaulted in female-only spaces hasn't gone up, you know. So yeah. So anyway, some more. Yeah, you want to see some more? You really want to see some more of this?
It's easy peasy. Go online, click, click, click. Now I'm a bird.
No, as we've said, statutory declaration, mate.
It's a whole new world. Women's changing rooms, dormitories, sports teams, prisons. Get into jobs normally reserved for cramping.
No. The Gender Recognition Act has absolutely zero to do with access to single-sex spaces. The Gender Recognition Act, introduction of self-ID, would be purely to enable trans people to be able to change the sex marker on our birth certificates easier and to become, in UK law, legally female. So you don't need you don't need a gender recognition certificate, which is what you're issued with if your your application to the gender recognition panel is successful. You don't need a gender recognition certificate, i.e., you know, saying that you're legally female to be able to access female spaces. I mean, for instance, I access women's toilets. I don't use the gents, I use the women's toilets. Because if I use the men's toilets, that would be kind of cause much more commotion than if I use the women's toilets. And I've not had any problems at all in all the years I've been using women's toilets from any other women who use those toilets. So, you know, I mean, and similarly, changing rooms, showers, you know, women's refuges, you don't need to be legally female to use those. What protects you, your right to use those as a trans person, is the 2010 Equality Act. So that, I mean, there has never actually been any law in the UK saying that, you know, you have to be legally of, you know, male or female to use single-sex facilities. So for instance, nobody's ever there's no law prohibiting trans women or, you know, like, even like, you know, somebody who's like a cross-dresser, for instance, from using women's toilets, because obviously it's safer for them as well. I mean, there's never been any law stopping them doing that, and the Equality Act was introduced 2010 just to safeguard that, so that, for instance, if I were to use a women's toilets in a pub and the landlord was to come out and say, oh no, you can't do that, you have to use the gents, and I could take that landlord to court and say, so-and-so forced me to use the gents, so I couldn't use the facilities on the premises, and that would be a clear-cut case of discrimination, and I would win my case. So yeah. So this was the main thrust of this video and other videos like them, all the propaganda sort of material by transphobic groups, terf groups like Fair Play for Women, was that if you introduce self-ID, if people could declare their gender, you know, if you empowered trans people to do that, then men would take advantage of this and they would use their gender recognition certificates, which makes them legally female, to go into women's toilets and women's, you know, single-sex spaces, but and therefore put women at risk, at further risk of sexual assault and violence. But no, because it doesn't work like that. As I said, you would have to make a statutory declaration anyway, as do trans people in other countries, and the incidence of sexual assaults, as far as, you know, to my knowledge, has not actually gone up during the time that they've had self-ID laws in, and it's been quite a while in some countries that they've actually had self-ID, and they didn't have it with as much fuss. So yeah, so anyway, to proceed further, you really want to go any further? You want to go all the way? I shouldn't say that really, because they will now think that I'm one of these lecherous sort of predatory trans women. Anyway, let's proceed.
It's like going on safari. Easy, tiger. And the best thing is, it's 100% legal. Go on, mate. You know you want to. Boldly go where more and more other geezers are going too. It's one small step for man into ladies' changing rooms.
Cringe. Boldly go where no man has been before. This is so cringe, you know. I mean, it really is cringe.
Treat yourself. Be a woman! If you think.
Be a woman. Be a woman and get paid 20% less for doing exactly the same job as your male colleagues. Be a woman and make sure that you don't walk up in town after a certain time, otherwise you'll be sexually harassed by males, as they keep telling us. Be a woman and be much more likely to be sexually assaulted or raped. Yeah, be a woman, eh? And trans women have to go through all this crap as well. Yeah, but anyway.
If you think sex self-ID is a bad idea, go to fairplayforwomen.com to tell the government not to make it law before it's too late.
Yeah, and unfortunately these people got their way. So our government, Boris Johnson's government, listened to these people. They actually listened to them. The 30% of people who voted against the reforms to the Gender Recognition Act were listened to over the 70% of people who responded to the public consultation and voted in favour of reforming the Gender Recognition Act. So the transphobes won, even though there were only 30% of them. So the government completely ignored the consultation result, and they declined to reform the Gender Recognition Act. So yeah, and that just goes to show really how powerful these groups are. I mean, this particular group, Fair Play for Women, they had a full page ad in a newspaper back about the same time as they produced this video, which was saying like similar stuff to what's actually in this video. It's basically a whole full page ad just scaremongering about trans women being predators, you know, and saying that you know, self-ID would encourage men to give them a kind of green light to invade women's spaces and to assault women, and you know, I mean, it's the power of the media as well had a lot to do with this. The power of the mainstream media, which is transphobic in the UK, and the government won the election. Boris Johnson's government won the election on a sort of far right sort of ticket, because they actually managed to capture the UKIP votes at the time, and now they're kind of beholden really to the alt-right, which is why, you know, they kind of reneged on the former Tory Prime Minister Theresa May's promise to reform the Gender Recognition Act. Because Theresa May, the Conservative Prime Minister before Boris Johnson, promised at the Pink News Awards to reform the Act, and so yeah, so that's just another broken promise. So yeah, but yeah, please do tell me what you think of this video, and if you've got any thoughts on this whole sort of thing, you know, what you think of the video, and if you have the same sort of reaction to it as me, what you think of how the consultation went, and how trans people were sort of denied, or are still being denied, the opportunity of self-ID. Yeah, and please feel free to make comments below. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. I love you all, and do take care, folks, and please remember, transphobic people like these in the minority, and it's very much in the UK it's the establishment who are transphobic. Most people don't have a problem with trans people in using single-sex facilities, so yeah, so don't have nightmares, and I love you all, and until next time, cheerio. Bye.